So this past week was frustrating for me. Um, I got word while I was at work that my boss hit my car. So it was frustrating because I felt like, of course, it was out of surprise. He came into the office and was like, "Hey, I hit an employee car. Did anybody have this car?" Sadly, it was mine, so we walked out and saw the damage that was done to it. So I had to call a tow truck. I live really, really far. I live in Covina and my work is in Riverside. So the frustrating part was figuring out how my car would get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It was hard too because my boss just left me out there. He just was saying, "Hey, if you need to figure it out, give me a call and then we'll figure it out," but that's it, and kind of left. So eventually we figured out how to get the car somewhere. We made it to Rancho, which is my parents' house, but from there more frustrations kind of kept going too as well. I had to go to work still. I had to go to class the next day still too. So I didn't have a car at all. So kind of figuring out whose car I'm gonna use was hard. Luckily, my dad had an extra car and wasn't planning on going to work the next day. So I was able to get his car for that time being. But then, yes, I live far, so I eventually made it back to Covina. But within that time frame, it just turns out that my car wasn't going to be ready for a while once we put it to the shop. So more frustration started building with my dad and when he's going to get a car, if I'm going to get a rental car and everything like that. On top of that, the expenses were kind of frustrating. The tow truck from work to Rancho was about $200.
Oh no.
And then getting the car fixed didn't go through his insurance. It went through my own insurance. So that was a couple hundred out of my pocket or thousands. So
Yeah.
that was super frustrating to figure all of that out. What else? It was just hard getting back on track.
Yeah.
I think I eventually got my car after about 3 weeks of it being out of my hands. But even then, it was just like, you still had to kind of think of all the insurance and the expenses that go through with it. And I think for me, the frustrating part was my boss didn't help me out at all. And I see him all the time. I see him every day, and I don't think he even acknowledged the fact that like, "Oh, sorry." It was just kind of like, "Okay, let me know what I could do," but then that was kind of it too as well. Right now the car is great. It's been a week or so since I got it back, so it's in good hands and in good conditions too as well. So overall it was frustrating, but I think I was able to kind of pull through from it. I have a good support system from my parents, and then my friends giving me rides if anything too as well. So yeah,
that's good. So is there like tension between you and your boss at all, or is that like
a little bit?
Little.
Yeah, I think he made a joke one time about like, "Hey, remind me not to park next to you next time," but it's kind of just still that awkward, like tense being at work, especially you have to encounter that person every day through life type of thing. So that was a little bit hard to kind of go back to be like, "Hey, you didn't help me out," or anything like that. But
it's also insensitive to kind of say like, I don't know, kind of just making a joke out of it. Like if it was serious in your life, you know, like I think I'm frustrated.
It was just hard, but I mean, it's a big enough company for us to kind of swipe by each other, but you know, it being your boss and the person that's higher up than you, it's like, it's hard not to acknowledge that person and just be like, "Good morning," without that like, you know, but for now it's pretty good. It's not too bad.
That's good. It sounds like he's trying to like kind of avoid that responsibility of those like emotions and just all that like, "Oh, I'm not gonna make it serious because I don't want to deal with it," and it's just like invalidating your experience, like when it was kind of hectic in your life, which isn't fair to you. So,
and I think it's like people handle things like their frustrations differently, or like they cope with things differently. I think with him, he copes with things like by making jokes, or like laughing things off. So that's his way, but it's different towards other people. So
it is.
I took it differently, but for him, it was like, I know his personality, so it's like, yes, it should be fine. That's true.